Hi, Tom from bknutrition.com, and in this video I'm going to talk a little bit about overeating on the weekend and the guilt you get after overeating on the weekend. So you know the score, this happens to a lot of us a lot of the time, is you have been doing very well on your diet for, let's say, 2, 3, 4 weeks. You've been eating moderately on the weekends, but then it comes the weekend, you've got a birthday or a social event or something like that, and you really go to town, you really smash the food, overeat massively. Monday comes, you're like, oh, why did I do that? I should have stuck to my diet, everything else. And then the first thought is, I've ruined my diet, I've ruined everything, I've undone all that good work. Now, here's the thing, if you've been watching me for a little while and followed some of my other videos, you'll know that that isn't the case. 2 days, I mean, you'd have to have massive amount of food to really ruin things in 2 days if you've done like 2 or 3 weeks beforehand, or even a week beforehand. You have to really go to town on it. So 2 days of overeating is not going to destroy all the effort you've done beforehand. It's not going to ruin your diet plan. And when I talk to people on our consultation calls or in our accountability meetings, they say, "Oh, I've had this thing. I think I messed up the diet." Actually, look at the data, look at their photos, everything else, and you find that they haven't messed everything up. Sometimes they've even improved. They look better because they were getting a bit tired on their diet. They needed a little bit of a metabolic uplift, so they have a bit of extra foods and it kicks them back up to having loads of energy again, then more motivation for their diet. That's quite common, sometimes called a diet break. So anyway, they have this overeating, this unplanned overeating, and actually they look better for it. They feel better, and their weight hasn't drastically changed. Sometimes it's gone even down. So in that situation, you expect the person to go, "Great, it's not affecting me at all." And do you know what? In my experience, 8 out of 10 times people will say to me, "Yeah, but imagine what I could have done, what it would be like if I'd eaten clean all the way through the weekend, I hadn't cheated." So they haven't messed things up, they haven't done themselves any harm, but now they're looking at, well, what if situations, what could have happened if I'd eaten properly and everything else. Now here's the thing, trying to eat clean all of the time is not going to help you. In fact, it might even stop you getting the results you want faster, and I'll explain why. Whenever I work with people and they say, "Oh yeah, and you hear this a lot from people, when they've decided their diet, yeah, no more carbs, no more cakes, it's eating clean 100% from now on." And then a week later or five days later, they've undone all that, they've smashed some donuts or whatever, and they feel guilty because of it. The clean eating health halo is not something which is guaranteed to get you results faster, as in get fat loss faster or get muscle building faster or whatever else. In fact, this sort of health halo, and the health halo is where you think some foods are like holy, they can't do anything wrong because they're clean. Normally people think of this as like nuts, avocados, fish, like oily fish, I don't know, leafy veg, but then leafy veg doesn't have many calories on it. All these things that have this health halo. Oh, I can't possibly do any harm eating that sort of stuff. And this is normally when people overeat on nuts as a snack, have loads of smashed avocado with their food, eat loads of nice smoked salmon. All of these things which have higher calorie loads and actually end up putting them over their calories, so they're in a surplus. That's the one risk of eating clean all the time. Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't eat those foods, because avocado is great. I love avocado. I love a bit of nuts every now and again, and I like salmon. I don't like smoked salmon, but I like salmon steamed and with a bit of Cajun spice on it. But I'm always thinking about, okay, this food is very healthy. It's got like the vitamins and minerals, and it's got like protein, whatever. It's really good for me. But I need to be aware of the calorie load that it's carrying so I don't overeat. And that's the thing that people forget. They talk about clean eating. Yeah, there's no like trans fats in it. There's no carbs. There's no cookies. There's no ice cream or whatever else. Great, that's clean. But they haven't considered the calorie load. So that's the one thing you have to be thinking about. So, and a lot of people don't think about that. When they think about clean eating, it's like, let's just get as much clean food as we can in and don't worry about the calories. The other side of this is that what people class as clean and dirty, or unclean, for want of a better word, foods does vary. But normally, when I talk to people, their definition of clean is normally like unprocessed foods, whole grain carbs, lean meats unless they're vegetarian or vegan, nuts, avocados, fruit, veg, all those things. And all those things are good foods. Yeah, they're great to incorporate in the diet. The problem here is a lot of those foods take time to prepare. You can't just pick up a salmon and eat it. You can't just pick up an avocado and eat it. You have to cut it and, for now. And a lot of the unclean or dirty or whatever, or cheap foods, if you want to call them that, they're normally very processed, refined carbs, got some fats in them or lots of fats in them, sugar, and they're very processed foods. So you can just literally just pick those up and eat them. And the problem with that in our society nowadays is that foods are generally processed to some degree. Now, unless you're always going to be shopping at a Marks and Spencer, which do a brilliant range of clean foods, if you want to call it that, which have been prepared for you, ready to eat, or you're always within reach of one of those types of shops, sometimes you're going to find it difficult to eat clean when you're out and about, and especially at social events. You go out for a meal or something else. Yeah, you can order healthy options off the menu, but you can't determine to the nth degree how those things are prepared. Even if you order just steak and veg, you can't say that they haven't cooked the steak in some oil and they haven't put a little bit of butter on the vegetables, unless you obviously ask for them not to do that. You could do that, and you can't eat. You go into restaurants now, they don't do fruit as an option for pudding, which they used to do years ago. I don't know why they don't do it anymore. If it's fruit, it's always like fruit with ice cream, or fruit tart or something like that. There's hardly ever any like healthy options for pudding. So then you've got to miss out on that experience. And all this potentially makes you a very boring person to go out with. Is oh, you're gonna have some pudding? Oh no, I'm clean eating today. You're gonna have some pizza? Oh no, I'm low carb today because carbs are bad. All these things, and eventually, okay, friends, will respect you for whatever you want to do, but eventually you will not get invited out because all they get when you go out is, oh, I can't have that, I can't do this. And it is very difficult for people to eat clean all the time. And the thing is, we do want to have social events. We do want to have time out with our friends and our family. If I go out with my son, I don't want to say, oh, no, I'm not going to have an ice cream with you, Jacob, because I'm eating clean or whatever. I want to have that ice cream. I want to have that thing and have that experience with him. And I also don't want my son looking at certain foods as good or bad. And this is the annoying thing, because they are taught this stuff in school, that some foods are bad for you. And I have to have this conversation and say, no, Jacob, it's not. Foods are bad. Some foods have more calories, more fats and everything else, and they're not as healthy, potentially, as other foods. But food is food, and you should have everything in proportion. And it's unfortunate they don't teach that to more of a degree in schools, but I appreciate syllabus is limited and education limited, etc. I appreciate all that. But the fact that people are taught this from an early age is that some foods are good and some foods are bad. And that carries into adult life, where they're there, no, I can't have ice cream because that's bad. No, I can't have this because it's bad. But I can have 5 avocados because that's good. Although that's 1,000 calories, give or take. So eating this clean, eating healthy, eating unhealthy, eating unclean, whatever, all these things are very subjective. And my philosophy is that you should have somewhat of an 80-20 rule when you're eating, and this is what we do with the clients people I work with. We look at an 80-20 rule. If we can eat decent, healthy, whole grain fruits and veg and lean meats and everything else, all those healthy, good foods 80% of the time, well then having 20% of our calories from what would be classed as potentially unclean or cheat or dirty or whatever you want to call it foods, that's okay. Because we've taken care of things like protein, good carbs, good vitamins and minerals in the other foods, and it's nice to have this option to be able to eat a little bit more relaxed and have some of our calories from this other food, which is food potentially that's going to make you feel a bit better. You're going to enjoy it. If you enjoy eating ice cream, I love eating ice cream, so I will enjoy that. But I won't have my whole diet out of ice cream because I wouldn't enjoy it anymore. If I'm eating ice cream all the time, I wouldn't even enjoy it. But a cornetto in the evening when I'm watching some Star Wars or whatever else, that's quite nice. I can do that. And it's not all the time. I'm just having this one little snack. And I can do this and not feel guilty. And when my clients say, oh no, what could have happened if I'd eaten clean? Would I have got better results? Well, you might have. You might have got a little bit better results. But that does depend on the calories you've consumed. And if you did eat clean and have like smashed avocado with salmon on a sourdough bread roll, okay, you probably eat, that's probably could be classed as eating clean for most people, but that is gonna be close to like 600 to 800 calories, where you could have had something that potentially, I mean, even a McDonald's, potentially a McDonald's meal is less than that if you have, certain things. So the thing here is that eating clean does not necessarily determine success, and you shouldn't feel guilty because you've eaten unclean, dirty, whatever, cheap foods in its stead. As long as that fits into the calories you've allotted for yourself and it fits into your plan for the week, then what is the issue with eating a little bit of cheap food? In fact, I encourage it for my clients because they've got to be able to relax. Because most people, like I said, don't like eating clean food all the time. I mean, I love eating salmon, I love eating avocado, baked potatoes, pasta, fruits and veg. I eat a lot of fruits and veg. I eat lots of natural yogurt. I love all that stuff. That's stuff I could eat all the time. But every now and again, I want to have a Terry's chocolate orange. I want to have a cornetto. I want to have a bit of ice cream. I want to have a beer and some Pringles while I watch a movie. I want to have all that stuff. And although I do like eating clean food, and I could eat that all the time if I was required to, I would start to miss these other things I also like. And what that happens then is you start to build up that, I miss that. And the same thing happens with these really restrictive diets that people give to people to say, oh yeah, you can't have white foods, or you can't have carbs, or you can't have blah, blah, blah. All these stupid lists of things that people aren't allowed to eat because they're bad foods. You get all that, and then what the person does is just build up this bank of all these foods he's going to have when they come off the diet, and that becomes then a massive binge. So when I say to clients, when they say, I should have eaten clean, I said, yeah, okay, you probably could have maybe got slightly better results by eating clean on that weekend, but what happens? Because you've now associated that if you're going to have some cheat food, it's on the weekend, you've got to wait 7 days for the next weekend to come around. So you're going to be thinking potentially about having those cheat foods on that day, and then when that day comes, you're then going to go overboard and very much likely, or very, very likely even, to overeat because you feel as though you can only have it on weekends. And this is where people's mentality of, it's my cheat day, it comes in. No day is cheat day. You can have cheat food any day of the week you like. It's 80-20 rule. You can have, I sometimes have in the week, I'll have all my good, clean, healthy food all the way through the day. And then I'll sit down in front of the TV or Xbox or whatever. And I thought, you know what? I could really do some crisps. So I have a little bit of crisps. But I don't have a whole ton. I don't have a whole tube of Pringles. I have some crisps labelled out into a bowl so I can enjoy the food but not overeat it. And although, that's classed as cheat food, bad food, whatever, it's a tiny portion of what I've eaten in that day. So I've cheated that day. But what happens is I've then satisfied my muncher craving, and I've talked about muncher in my muncher brain in other videos. I've satisfied that muncher craving of, let's have something like sort of cheat food because it's nice and snacky and make you feel better. I've had that, I've satisfied that. So that side of my brain goes back to sleep. It's like, yeah, do you know, we've had that. We don't need to think about it anymore because we can have it any time of the week we like. Whereas if you're saving up your cheat food for the weekend, or you're trying to eat clean and resist that urge to eat some cheat food, what's going to happen is that is going to grow and grow and grow and end up into a binge. I've seen that happen with so many clients, so many people who aren't my clients, and then come to me saying, this is what I do. It's like, yeah, that's quite common. This is why it happens. And eventually it undoes your diet, because what happens is you get into this thing of, I can't eat that food, it's cheat food. You start resisting too much, start trying to use your willpower, and eventually it's like, do you know what? I can't be bothered with that diet because that doesn't let me enjoy myself, and I'm going to go back to what I was doing before, just eating cheap foods and everything else, and not tracking and not logging, and then you start gaining all that weight back again. So, moral of the story, if there is one, is that you should incorporate some junk into your diet at all times. You should have availability, that if you want to have some crisps, you want to have some ice cream, you want to have a beer, whatever you want, you should have some mechanism for incorporating that into your eating plan at any point of the week. Now I have done, there's another video I've done called the Lean Matrix. It's part of my book, Target Lean, and I talk about the Lean Matrix there, where you have what's called acceptable cheats, which you can have at any time, which don't force you to have a binge, don't trigger you to overeat, but are off the menu for what you would normally class as your normal foods. So, for example, a Nando's is an acceptable cheat for me because I wouldn't have a Nando's every day of the week. But when I go there, I do like it. It's more calories than I'd probably eat. But when I eat a Nando's, I don't then want another Nando's right afterwards. Okay, so it's something that's higher calorie, is classed as a treat for me. But I wouldn't then have a 3 or 4 more Nando's after that because I'm into a binge cycle. Whereas some people say pizza is a trigger for them, ice cream is a trigger for them, so they wouldn't have that as their acceptable cheats. That's in another video though. Feel free to go and watch that if you want to go and do that. But do incorporate some cheat into your, or cheat food, I should say, into your diet. And don't feel guilty if you've overeaten on the weekend. You know, it's happened, just accept it. You probably enjoyed it at the time because you're with your family or your friends or whatever. And that's the whole point. You're supposed to enjoy life. Yeah, that's what I always teach my clients. Make sure you enjoy your life. This dieting thing, it's okay to look good. But if you feel like rubbish and look good, that's not going to hold together for a little while. You need to look good and also feel good. And having this sort of cheat food every now and again will help you accomplish that. And also make a more rounded person, someone who can do that diet for the rest of their life and be happy and in decent shape. Okay. Hope that information helped you. Hope it gave you something to think about. If you like this video, please go and subscribe to my channel if you're not subscribed or whatever, and press the like button because it all does help with the algorithm and trying to get my my reach up and help more people see the right nutrition advice on the internet, not some of the restrictive diet stuff that you've obviously seen in other days. Thanks for your time. Appreciate your time, it's very valuable. Thanks for spending it watching me and listening to me, and I'll see you on the next video. Bye for now.